Alright, so this case is a few months old now, I understand that, but it definitely is worthy of a review on the channel, and the reason for that is that I believe that this case is one of the best all-round budget cases that you can buy right now, and that is greatly appreciated when graphics card and memory pricing is through the roof in 2018. So, is the Eclipse P300 the hero that we need among our overpriced PC hardware? I think so, and to get my point across, let me just start by saying that this is just $59 US. There are not many compromises on this case at all, and in fact, the closer I looked and the harder I tried to fault it, the more I began to appreciate all the small details that Phanteks have worked on here. Now, for this ATX mid-tower case, we're getting a full metal exterior which is finished in metallic black, and the most striking feature that we don't see a lot of is the tempered glass side panel, which only covers the system and not the power supply shroud as well. Now, at first you may feel like you are losing a little bit of value here because you're not getting a full-sized tempered glass side panel like we've seen in common cases like the Meshify C and the S340 Elite, but do understand that those cases are more expensive, and so this is one way that Phanteks have effectively brought the price down of the Eclipse P300 into that really affordable price range. And I don't think it's a big deal if I'm totally honest. I kind of like this unique approach where the power supply shroud and the tempered glass side panel are nice and flush, and the glass panel actually seems more functional as it's only there for the visible components and it's not just covering a sheet of metal for visual appeal. I also think that it helps balance out the proportions of the case as well, as the P300 is a rather narrow and tall case and is quite compact like the Meshify C, but side by side you can see that the P300 has this illusion that it is longer than it actually is, and that's because the tempered glass side panel does not stretch the entire height of the case, and I think I might actually prefer this. And a quick note on I/O, it's pretty standard, 2 USB 3.0 ports and also a mic and headphone jack. For the front intake airflow design, we are mostly blocked here except for the intakes at the top and bottom, so it'll be interesting to see how much that affects thermals inside the case. And as I said in my intro, the closer you look at the P300, the more you can appreciate the finer details, and an example of this are these removable dust filters on both ends of the front panel. Unfortunately, no included front intake fan, although that really would have been going above and beyond at this point, but thankfully there is an included 120mm exhaust fan which should improve temperatures quite a bit. There's also a slot at the top for either a 120 or 140mm fan, and a dust filter is included there, which is always nice to see. Okay, now let's take a look at what you can actually fit inside the case and whether we are compromising a lot on compatibility in this price range. For storage, we are a little bit limited relative to other cases, but for the target audience here, I think it's plenty. We get two 3.5-inch drive cages which are positioned behind the front panel and are thankfully hidden thanks to that power supply shroud, and installation is nice and simple. For 2.5-inch drives, we have two slots behind the motherboard tray, but unfortunately only one bracket is included. Why did Phanteks think this was a good idea? Anyway, moving on. For radiator support, we're working with a front-mounted radiator configuration only, which is going to be fine for most users. 240 and 280mm rads are supported here, and I'd always check for existing builds out there to see what actually will fit, as there have been a few issues with the larger 280 rads. Power supplies up to 160mm in length will fit. It will be a tight fit though, as you can see, but I have to say that I do prefer this optimized approach with no wasted space, and I seriously encourage this compact direction that ATX mid-towers seem to be going in. But now, time to actually build inside the case and see how it performs. so the building experience went flawlessly with our usual test system here with a Ryzen 5 1600 and the stock Wraith Spire cooler, and also a GTX 1060. Cable management was pretty easy as well, and the deep routing channel reminded me of the excellent work that I've seen from Fractal Design, and despite this being a compact case, I do appreciate that Phanteks have given us enough room to work with for our bulky stock cables. And with the build now well and truly alive, we can see the tasteful lighting that Phanteks have given us, both for the power button and underneath the tempered glass side panel towards the front of the case. It looks tasteful and not overdone, just how I like it, and you can easily change the color and effects with the button on top of the case that we looked at earlier. And finally, let's take a look at how this case does in terms of airflow and cooling. And starting with our stock out of the box configuration, the CPU is sitting at 67 degrees C under the stock cooler, and this is neither exceptional or bad airflow, but somewhere in the middle. Now, removing the front panel, temperatures only dropped by 3.2 degrees C, so although the front panel is restricting airflow a little bit, it's definitely not something to blow up about, and 3.2 degrees is really solid. Next, adding in a 120mm fan at the front in the bottom slot with the front panel closed, temperatures do improve here a little, but unfortunately not as much as I expected. Next, let's look at GPU temperature in Heaven 4.0, and at stock, we're seeing the GTX 1060 sitting at around 66 degrees C under full load. Removing the front panel doesn't give us a huge improvement, which is actually good to see, and then adding in a front intake fan if you're not using a front mounted radiator is recommended, and as we see, we get a drop of about 3 degrees C compared to stock. So airflow seems to be pretty good overall. We don't get a huge drop in temperatures when removing that front panel, and adding in a front mounted fan did improve GPU temperatures by a significant amount. Overall, I've got to say I'm fairly impressed with what Phanteks have done here. I love the elegant design, and airflow is evidently good enough for a mid-tier system, all of this for $59 US. And so for any budget mid towers that land on the review table for the rest of this year, they will be going up against the Eclipse P300, because I believe that this case is an excellent reference point for what we should be getting as consumers in that budget market. I'd love to chat with you all down below though, so let me know if there is a case that can beat this for $59 US. Thank you all so much for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already, and as always, I will see you all in the next one.